Good day and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm going to be going through this video on battle cruisers and where they should be and the overall way that the community has been complaining and the way the game has shifted. So let's get into it. Before I actually start, I'm going to ask for my standard. Please leave a like or comment on my video. Consider subscribing to my channel. And if you don't like my video, leave a dislike. Now let's go on to the next part of this video. Now I have done this video 2 times before. That's why my voice is a bit more hoarse than normal. It's also why I've been coughing a lot because I've been redoing videos several times. My first time, I felt that I was too harsh in my approach. My second time, I got too harsh in the end. So I'm redoing it on this try. And this is most likely going to be the most calm, level headed I'm going to get in going through everything. Now, when it comes to these ships, remember two of these ships are built primarily to help you in PvE. There is your Prophecy and Myrmidon. Drones work best in PvE, and that is the way that the game was shaped from the start. The drones were meant to help you cheese through PvE, and that's where you're going to use them, that's where you're going to get your advantage. Now, moving on to your other vessels, they are PvP PvE vessels. The Hurricane is definitely the best when it comes to speed, and all you've got to do overall is find the right spot, attack at the right time, and you have the advantage in combat. So right now, using a battle cruiser to take on a fleet of ships in PvP isn't a very good idea. Your battle cruiser isn't at its maximum. You haven't got defense, you haven't got command, you haven't got engineering. Your ship is weak, and it's only matching the higher level cruisers. So you're gonna go jump in against Mauler, you're not gonna beat them on armor. You're gonna go and jump in against Navy issue uh, Stabber, which is super OP at the moment. You're not gonna match up with your shields because they're just gonna tear right through you like you didn't exist. You go up against other ships, they're gonna hold that advantage on you. They're gonna hit you hard. They're gonna break your shield, and that's why it's not good to take them into PvP at the moment. So all of these ships in the battle cruiser class are good in PvE for this time. Their 6 weapons can help you run through stories and encounters. In story missions, they can take in super soft drink for patriotism and for freedom very simply. These ships have a strong amount of range and a very strong firepower. Any vessel that comes too close, you blast it and destroy it. With 6 weapon slots, and if you fit them outright, that's gonna be your most elite weapon you can possibly buy. You're going to have the advantage on these ships. So super elite rapid missile launchers on a Cyclone, super elite railguns on a Ferox, super elite cannons on a Hurricane, super elite lasers on a Harbinger. They're going to give you your best results in combat. Obviously, the drones, we haven't yet gotten a hold of the elites. I haven't seen any for sale as yet. Once we start seeing them up, I'm sure people will buy them and use them in PvE. So what are you going to do in your small missions with these vessels? Running a rapid missile launcher on a Cyclone, just rephrase it for whichever weapon you run. So running it into a quick PvE battle, story mission for patriotism. It takes me about 2 hours to do it solo with my trainer vessel, and it will take me about 1.5 hours with my cruiser. With my battle cruiser, it's going to be something near 30 minutes. And the reason for that is the extra weapon plus the extra defense on the base, plus the fact that I'm going to run a super shielded build with the right type of slots all activated means I can rip through vessels that come too close to me. And that's what I want to do. With the 25% extra range, I have that advantage. I should play that advantage. And that's what you should be thinking. You can beat them with raw firepower, brute force over tactic. It is a tactic in itself, but going brute force is much better in this case than playing them out with the long range combat with the missile launcher. But if you're trying to save on expenses, go with the missile launcher, play the long range fight, and see where it gets you. If you're going for the long range fight compared to the short range fights, you're looking at about an hour for the battle for patriotism. Same uh, for freedom, and it will be the same for Galante's super soft drink. You're going to be in that same amount of time. But here's something to remember: Amar eats shields, so you're not really going to have that much of an advantage unless you're putting a Harbinger into Amar space and fighting. It's the best ship because of its heavy armor, and it's going to tank a little bit more when it comes to the lasers. Okay, so going on into the next step when it comes to using these vessels. As we progress, new builds will become available to you and they'll be more efficient for you. So, super speedy battle cruisers aren't available as yet because your command is low. Once your command reaches advanced, you're going to have that super fast ship. And that's when it becomes feasible for you to jump into a battle cruiser for PvP. And once you have expert, it becomes even easier. And remember, we're waiting till T9 for battleships. So that's a long wait till the next vessel. So pulling more into battle cruisers will be a good idea. Okay, and thinking about it carefully, completing cruisers first, then jumping to battle cruisers is the best idea because your advantage keeps growing with the level and you're going to get new ships all the way till you level out. Like destroyer mains should level out in T7. They shouldn't be continuing into T8 trying to match you with a destroyer because your most elite destroyers are T7. Let me just go in and double check. Oh no, I'm wrong. You get covert ops at T10. So yeah, most of the ships cut off and barrier off at T6. So at T6 you should have maxed out command, engineering, and defense, and now you should be progressing through your weapon builds on them, making sure they're at the maximum. And for you, jumping into cruisers is a bad idea. You have your super fast, now you need your super big tanky build. Jump into a battle cruiser, research out, reach the max level with the battle cruiser, then you jump into battleships, then you come back for a cruiser. And that's the way that you should be progressing. If you went frigate full training, I feel really sorry for you, but you are a level 5 max out if I'm correct. Oh, there's the level 10 version. And there's a level 7 version. Okay, so the frigates just keep going non-stop through the game. If you have the right frigate, you can build it up and use it in the correct situations. I don't really see any use for it besides speed tanking, which is really gone bad at the moment. So if you're going to run a frigate, you should already be maxed out and you should be heading into a battle cruiser as well, or you should be thinking about heading into battleships when they come out, so you should start researching the weapons. And that's how you're going to progress. One fast ship, one strong ship. Make sure that your research is balanced properly so that you can progress properly into the next vessel. And example, I started off with cruiser research. I focused on it from the moment that it opened. So my cruisers are going to be the one that I complete, and I might go straight from cruiser into battleship, holding a medium speed vessel that can take on frigates and destroyers, and holding a super heavy vessel that can obliterate other ships that come too close to it, being the battleship. You see, I'm choosing my gains. And that's the way that you should be thinking about your progression. That's how come the battle cruisers should be built in this way. Remember, the battle cruisers will continue all the way up till T10. So, when it comes to choosing your battle cruisers, at T9 you should be leveling out, and at T10 you should be maxed out and thinking about your next vessel. So, moving on, Let's start the complaints with PvP. Now, this is a PvE PvP game. We started off with distinct advantages and a distinct way in which they explain the game to you. Once you chose and once you started playing, everything was made available to you to look at. And even if you chose a particular faction, you could always still buy ships from the other factions, focus on weapons from the other factions, and progress smartly. But a lot of PvP players, being PvP players, prefer the following method of play: choose a weak ship, complain non-stop, and have the game change to suit you, because that is the way most PvP players play. They aren't really very good players in terms of the overall progress. That's the ones who choose poorly and complain, and the ones who choose wisely generally aren't favored when it comes to massive amounts of the PvP community, because in PvP, playing a surprise card is your best game overall. That is why you jump into taking a laser cannon into a missile launcher fight, basically. That was the original way the game was set in the start. I remember I had a distinct advantage with my missiles over every other type of ship. I wasn't worried about a Mars space. I used to go into a Mars space and finish off every single enemy and encounters, and it used to be one of the easiest encounters for me to complete in Elite T7s. Now, a Mars space is the most difficult for me to enter because the lasers are overpowered. Why is it overpowered? Because there was a nerf done to missiles that reduced range and caused you to fight on a closer range. There was also a massive change done to all the other weapons, giving them slightly more range, and it wasn't a balanced shift in the game. They didn't reduce the range of missiles and increase their impact. They reduced the range and left them at their current impact. So it was a trade -1 for missiles, +1 for everybody else. So overall, it was a sore loser tactic that they used, chose something weak and complained about it, and got their way in the end. Really, the devs should have put their foot down and said, choose better classes when you start the game. We can't change the whole game for your gameplay options. Okay, now thinking about it as it stands, I don't think that things should be shifted again in any way. Not to favor the old meta, not to favor any one weapon type. But the exploits need to be punished severely. So let's say, for example, the missile tracking computer stacking, which is the way to punish it so that the PvP players who are using it won't use it again going forward if they find that it still has some effectiveness. Put on negatives. Remove, and when I say remove, I mean literally remove a whole aspect of the power of the vessel. Make equipping 2 minus capacitor. Make it drain 80% faster on the capacitor. Make it drain 100% faster on the capacitor. That means having 2 of missile tracking unit, besides its 13% reduction in the effectiveness of the weapon, consumes double the power. That means that a player isn't going to think about manipulating the game to his benefit. And when they put in the third, punish them to the max, 5 times the drain on capacitor. That means where they were losing 10% with 2 of them, if they activate 3, they lose all their power. No shields, no weapons, nothing. It is punishment for trying to overuse the missile tracking computer, or it's punishment for trying to use the tracking computer. And it's a good punishment in the game. That means that a PvP player can't sit out in the middle of nowhere with a super amount of range and power and fight you non-stop. And knocking out their power should knock out all of their senses. They shouldn't be able to detect, move, or even warp disrupt you. And it should take them like 20 seconds to regain power from 0. And that's a good idea. Anybody who tries to exploit more than 2 of a device in the low slot should receive that heavy penalty. Give it a reason so that if an exploit happens again, they are afraid of something like this happening. Give that negative, push it out to the game, push it out to the community, and I guarantee you the PvP players will complain. because they love to play the unfair exploit. It's the only way that they progress. And the devs know that it's a problem in the game. They're going to have to replace players' ships. I got hit with a missile from 150. I got hit by a laser from 150 kilometers. It destroyed my ship. It destroyed my Type C weapons. It was outside of the regular range. I have done all my calculations with maximum research and expert, and it's impossible. There's no way for them to reach that. And then you find out, no, they've been stacking computers because of a glitch in the game. They're getting work. They're going to have to replace, and they're going to gain in terms of resources for overdoing the exploit. How should they punish you for this exploit? Moving forward, add that negative, add the possibility of losing a battle for exploiting these low slot devices. Stacking any three of a device will instantly render your ship powerless. It sounds fantastic to me. You running three shield boosters so that damage doesn't register on your vessel. You take two hits. It's heavy hits from someone who's running glass cannon. Remember, that's their loss. You decide you're going to activate all three because it's hitting into your shield, taking it down very fast. With three, you can regen, and it looks like they're not doing any damage to you. Power is out in your ship. You can't regen anymore. You have to wait for 20 seconds to pass before your ship starts to regain power. And even when it starts to regain power, you can't initiate a shield booster. You have to wait for your power to gain up to 10%. So it's going to take you 50 seconds to regain power. It's going to take you 40 seconds before you can warp away for exploiting the game. And it's a good thing to do. Put in a negative punishment. That's going to force the PvP players to play more fair. It's going to force players not to look for exploits in the game which can harm themselves. And it's going to force less work onto the dev team. That means y'all can improve the gameplay for everybody. Y'all can keep the daily login rewards going 24/7. You can make Omega cheaper, or you can make Omega easier for the players to get. And everything becomes a better gameplay. Your free to play is going to enjoy the game because when he reaches month 3, he feels like he can take on a PvP battle if someone tries to surprise him. If you're in the middle of an encounter and you're rushing to a station and I jump at you with another ship and I'm using an exploit that is ridiculously overpowered, I hit you with a sniper that's 150 kilometers in a single shot, you now have a chance to micro warp towards me. And when you micro warp, I'm still not going to be able to get you back, disrupt you, stop you for 30 to 40 seconds. And what does that mean? I'm going to get to blow right through you. You don't have a hardener, you don't have any shield boost, you're not even moving, you're just dead in space. A easy, simple target to hit, no tracking, no computers, nothing for you for 40 seconds. The same way that they give you the warp, the jump jammer when you commit a crime in high sec. You can't go to the stations or to the gates because security will destroy you. And that's fair. Keep it up. Now make sure that the PvP players know that exploits will get them destroyed. It's a punishment. It's like giving security to the low sec, to the null sec. If you're going to play unfair, you're going to be punished. If you're going to exploit the game, you're going to get punished. If you want to use those 3 and 4s, think about it carefully. You can use it, but at a massive detriment. And it makes sure that players play fair. They're not going to overstack. They're not going to overload. They're not going to look for every possible exploit. Okay, so another thing just to say, if you're a PvP player, when you play PvP, please remember that your choice of weapon in the start of a game dictates how you're going to play for the rest of your game. Now, choosing your first weapon, if anybody saw me choose my first weapon, I said I liked missiles, that's why I chose it. Now, did I know that missiles were superior in the very start? No, I didn't. Why did I choose missiles? Because I felt that missiles were going to give me an overall experience to something that I was used to. a very fair gameplay format that I know what's going on in, instead of choosing something that I don't know how to use. Example, I went with the laser. It didn't have range. I couldn't use it for my PvP gameplay style. It wasn't very effective in missions. It wasn't helping me progress in the game. Obviously, it wasn't the best option. When I start the game, I should look at all my weapons, look at what their advantages are, do some research, make your choice carefully. It's something they teach you in school. I don't think any school tells you just go try out there. There's no need for you to worry about knowing anything. You go for a job, you need to show that you have the credentials. Similarly, for a game, you want to play and be the beast when it comes to fighting. Look at your weapon, look at what it has, look at your fittings, think about everything, calculate it all together, do your homework, do your research, and play with it. If you want to go lasers because you know you have a good friend who's going to go with the dominant weapon and you're going to go laser because it's going to rack shields, that was the way to go. But right now it's all fair and square. I don't want to see anybody complaining about it being fair and square because it's fine. If they made it fair and square right now, it's only us who played smart in the start of the game who are disadvantaged. And all those who are whiners are just going to phase out as we kick into the next stage of the game. Now, I am whining. I know I'm whining, but that's the fun of this. I'm whining in a good manner, explaining why I'm whining. I'm not whining because, I went into a battle today. This guy with missile launchers hit me before I could even get into range of him. He destroyed me before I could even touch him. He's playing with a weaker weapon. You needed to go more glass to get in closer to beat him. You aren't going to be able to play a fair balanced build against him and hope to beat him. You need to take the disadvantage and the advantage as they come together. Put in the speed, put in the firepower, and win. Don't put in a little bit of speed and think that that little speed bonus and your massive shield is going to give you the advantage over somebody who's firing at you slower, is out of your range of mid slots. All of that was built into the game. It was primary function. And now it's all messed up. Everything has been reset and reshifted. At this point, just make sure that whatever you give a third slot activation for a tracking computer, ballistics computer, you now need to add in something for missiles because they're all on equal footing. You have a power draw on the weapons. Increase the power draw on the weapons because you increase their power and increase their range. Because those ships already have massive capacitors. Give them disadvantages, give them a reason to play and start thinking better. This is my message to the devs. Think about helping your entire community all at once. Don't just play for one player. Okay, I don't know why that isn't working. So this is my overall message to you. I hope that you enjoyed my video, and I hope that this discussion was fairly exploratory and explaining how you should complain, when you should complain. The only time you should complain really about the game is when an exploit is used that shouldn't be there. And the example is the triple tracking computers with no negatives. Complain about that. That shouldn't be there. And how should they negate it? By making sure that anybody who tries to do an exploit like this sees a greater negative. Make the negative feel so bad that a player has to contemplate losing to use it. It's a good idea. Let's say that the way the laser snipers work right now, at 150, you have a full fleet running it, and they're going to be dead in the water for 50 seconds after they use it. You're not going to run a fleet of just laser cannons because 150 kilometers, one shot from everybody will hit a ship. Sorry, will hit a ship and take it down. But when your ship kicks back in, if you started it on a fresh ship, you're not going to win. You have to let them get a little bit closer. You have to take a risk. You have to fight for a bit before you overload and try and win. It is the fair way to go. Like a triple shield booster, what's the only reason why you should do it? You know someone is running that super long range fighting strategy against you, so you boost your shield at the last second when it looks like you're going to go down. You get your full 60% shield back up in an instant. They hit you, their lasers drop them, you dropped, you're about dead in the water. And when the battle starts up again, it's going to be a fair build up. You traded all of your power at the risk of losing, they traded all their power at the risk of losing. Fair, square, easy gameplay. It's a fair thing to introduce, and I hope that they do introduce things like that going forward. Negative side effects like that would be fantastic. I can imagine certain corps who only focus on one weapon, thinking about adding others to their corp. It'll balance the gameplay, or balance the weapons now, balance the gameplay, give them a reason to do it. Put in the negatives at the maximum. Show them that they can't just keep going with one type of gameplay non-stop and hoping that it's going to get them to the end, because if anything goes against them, they're just going to whine and you're going to give them the advantage. Give the disadvantage to everybody. Make those penalties on low slots so bad that it will never be exploited again. So thank you for watching. Have a good day.